As a little boy, Todd Gobel was like most children, playful and happy. All of that changed when he was put in daycare.
I was abused for quite some time at a kind of a daycare center type of place, preschool type place, and I knew that was wrong. Didn't know why exactly. I'm obviously at that age as a little too young to even understand what any of that meant, but I knew something was wrong.
The woman who abused Todd also threatened him.
She told me if I didn't go along with this and go to where we were to go, she would tell my parents. And it was, you know, one of the most amazing cons of all time, because I, of course, as a kid, believed that and was scared and thought, boy, I would be in big trouble if my parents knew what was happening.
The abuse continued for over a year.
I ended up feeling unsure about sex stuff and didn't know what was right and what was wrong. It didn't feel like it was okay to think those thoughts of being sexually attracted to somebody, or, you know, having those first young initial sexual thoughts. Guilt and shame kind of came up. It felt maybe like it was something that wasn't okay.
In high school, those feelings turned to rage.
I began fighting in school, getting in trouble for physical fights. I was in a whole lot of trouble.
He started experimenting with drugs and alcohol.
The second that I had tasted alcohol, I was, you know, I didn't know at the time I was an alcoholic, and from the first sip, it had me, and that was just the ultimate thing to numb my emotions and feelings. And by the time I was halfway through my freshman year in high school, I'd gotten in a physical fight with a teacher and was expelled from the school district, and I wasn't in school at 15, and all I really clung to was drugs and alcohol.
At 17, Todd met a high school senior who was making several $100s per day as a pimp.
He would come one day in a Porsche, the next day he would come in a Cadillac, next day he'd come on a super bike motorcycle. And we said, boy, I don't know what he's doing, but we want to do what he does. And so I reached out to him, and we instantly became best friends.
Todd quickly learned how to lure women into prostitution.
All mental manipulation, essentially say, you gotta trust me, I'm your man, but I'm also your manager, and I can see past this curve in the road that you can't see. So you're gonna have to trust me and put your faith in me, that I can see that it doesn't seem right now, but it will be right in the future, and you're just gonna have to trust me on that. I had absolutely no respect for women, so it was this kind of weird paradox where we looked at them and considered them names that I wouldn't say on camera.
Enforcement was a pimp's primary responsibility. His girls had to perform, and his customers had to pay. One day, a customer refused payment.
I went into a blind rage, if you will, and I grabbed a hatchet, a machete type of thing, or hatchet, and I went ahead and went back to his house, and I attacked the man and began to chop him up with the axe. And at that point in time, I was arrested, and I was charged with attempted murder, robbery in the first degree, because I was demanding money inside of the man's home.
Todd was sentenced to 4 years at a correction facility. After he served his sentence, he wasted no time reviving his criminal skills. Todd committed a string of violent crimes and was in and out of jail for 9 years. After his last release, he returned to Bend, Oregon, where he grew up, for a fresh start. A friend of his father heard about Todd's criminal past and wanted to help.
He said, you know, what you're doing is you're on the Titanic and the ship is sinking and you're rearranging the deck chairs. So you're in a different position, but you're still going down. And I was like, well, you know, whoa, that's a little powerful. And for some reason, that analogy just super hit home with me. He took me out here to these mountains that are the Three Sisters that you can see from Bend. And he had me walk out in a field. And he says, you see those mountains? How they're white, covered in snow? And that's how God looks at you. And that's how God looks at your life, regardless of what you've done. What moved me so much was the major contrast between what I felt inside me and my insides. I felt like if you could rip open my chest and look at my insides, it looked like one of those smoking commercials for someone that's the lifelong black lung. I mean, I just felt so dirty and decrepit inside. And so looking at that mountain, it was this contrast to thinking, I thought, that's the opposite of what I am. I mean, the polar opposite. And to think that, oh, God looks at me like that seems like impossible, but yet super profound. And at the time, it was so amazing. He led me through the sinner's prayer, and he led me to Christ that day. And I wanted Jesus in my life, and it wasn't that I had turned a corner to be on fire for the Lord whatsoever, but I knew that what I was doing didn't work. And the thought and idea that maybe there was this glimpse or glimmer of an idea that I could be forgiven.
Todd says he sincerely asked Jesus into his heart, but he still struggled with his old lifestyle. He didn't know what to do or where to go, so he decided to go home to his parents.
The idea that I could come home and my parents would treat me like I was the prodigal son and they wanted to roll out the red carpet for me. I knew one thing, I didn't deserve it, but they did, and they showed me the real love of Jesus. These people that I used to hate and think that was just, full of it, are actually got more love than I've ever shown any human being. And my dad's testimony consists of 20 years on his knees praying every single night, waking up at 2 in the morning, going out to the living room, pleading with God, begging God to change me, being angry with God. I could never imagine having someone put that much dirt on my life and my family and my name and have him come back home and treat him as though he was some kind of prince.
There are times when you take your child and you just lay him on God's altar. You say, that's it, I'm done, I can't do anymore. When you finally release everything and lay your child up on God's altar, I think that's when God does his best work and when we see those miracles really take place.
Today, Todd is married to Sarah, and they have a son, Alonzo. Todd owns a graphic design agency, and he and his family live in Bend, Oregon.
I think God pursued me the same way he pursues all of us because he loves us so much. And in that way, I'm not any different than anybody else. God pursues us and continues to. He looks at us like his own children. And so there's absolutely nothing you could have ever done in life or that could have been done to you that can change that fact, that could make God love you less or make God not want to pursue you and love you and have something for you.